Good afternoon, boys and girls. Today is session 5 for writing using stories as evidence. This lesson is a little bit more difficult to understand. So I want you to read the Google Doc, and I'm going to try to explain it as best I can. This will be one of the hardest lessons that you have done all year long. I'm only giving you 3 lessons this week, so take your time, reread it, call me if you need some help. So today I want to remind you that when you are telling a story in the service of providing evidence for an idea, you need to angle that story to highlight the way it supports and connects your thesis. Wow, that's a big mouthful. Let me see if I can explain that just a little bit easier. When you are writing a story based on the book that you have, when you're trying to show people or tell people what you believe in, based on reading that story, sometimes you need to say what's not happening in the story to lead your reader into believing your thesis statement. So, for example, my thesis statement is dog is a good friend. And I'm going to use that as an example in my writing to tell you how what's happening in the story that's not really written. So we want to lead our reader into believing how we feel. And this is a way to teach someone or have someone believe the same thing that you do. It's kind of persuasive. It's like an opinion. And that's what we're going to do today. So, one of the things that we want to think about is when we're writing, I'm going to tell you again in my writing that dog is a good friend is my thesis statement. But now I want to find a way to say what is not actually happening in the story. So listen to my writing, and you can, if you want, you can open up the Google Doc and follow along as well. Dog is a good friend because dog is the kind of character that sees the best in others. For example, one day a fox came to the bush where Dog and Magpie lived. Fox moves through the trees sneakily like a tongue of fire. Magpie trembles at the sight of him, but Dog doesn't see the bad in Fox. Now, that we see in the book, we see that. We see the fox, even this portrait, the way the illustrator drew Fox as a tongue of fire, all red. We can see that, and we see that Magpie is trembling. She is scared of him. She really is. So, what I want to do now in my writing is I want to tell you that Dog is not scared. We don't read that in the text. We don't read it anywhere in the text, but we can infer it, meaning we can see by looking at the portrait, looking at the pictures, we can see by reading that Dog is not scared. So, I'm going to continue with my writing. Dog does not tremble like Magpie. He is not scared by Fox's haunted eyes. Instead, he is excited that Fox has come to visit their cave, and Dog welcomes him in for food and shelter. What I just wrote is not written in the text, but we can see it because we see Dog and we hear him tell Magpie that Fox is welcome. So I am writing my statement by saying something that I can tell is happening in the story. That's how I am trying to convince my reader, my thesis statement, that Dog is a good friend. And we see that. Dog only sees the good in Fox. And that is something that you can read in your when we look at Fox, our book. So today for your assignment, it might be a little bit hard. I hope you have picked a good book. You know, we've been working on this for a couple of days now. I want you to tell me on your pick a thesis statement. Hopefully you wrote a bunch of them the other day and now you've got one picked out. Tell me from your reading and writing something that convinces me about your character, something that did not happen in your textbook, but something that you know is true about your character. It doesn't have to be a lot, just a couple of sentences, but make sure that you start your writing with your thesis statement, and then tell me that. If you don't stress out if you can't figure it out, I'm not gonna worry about it. This is the hardest lesson of the whole unit. If you cannot figure it out, we'll move on to the next lesson and it'll be okay. So just try it and see how well you do. Have a great week, and we'll continue next week.